All right, Nick, let's talk about the Oregon Ducks. Oregon, really, these last few weeks has gotten hot on the recruiting trail and done a lot of really good work. You look at the trends, you look at everything going Oregon's way. I think you're going to see some things that are really, really good from this team. A lot of things you're going to like. Some things they're absolutely elite. So, Ducks fans, prepare yourselves. I think you're really going to like what we've got in store for you here. But before we get into that, I'm Andrew. That's Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, Oregon really been hot on the recruiting trail the last couple of weeks. Let's just say the July season so far. So, to remind everyone what all has been happening, let's jump into our string of tweets here talking about the moves the Ducks have been able to lock down. So, first up, all these from the great Hayes Fawcett over at On3 Sports. Go check him out on X. Hayes Fawcett doing a lot of really great stuff. So, first up, we got elite 2026 athlete Jalen Locke committed to the Ducks. Frisco, Texas native chose the Ducks over Texas, LSU, and USC. Love that. Some big quality opponents to beat in that aspect. Looking next, 5-star plus offensive tackle Emmanuel Iheanacho has committed to Oregon as well. The 6'7", 365 tackle chose the Ducks over LSU, Penn State, and Auburn. Another big win there for the Ducks. Next up, 4-star safety Devin Jackson has committed to Oregon. The 6'2", 195-pound safety from Orlando, Florida. Another SEC win for the Ducks. They were able to beat out Nebraska and Miami. Then finally, you have 2026 interior offensive lineman Kololi Kelly has flipped his commitment from Cal to Oregon. A guy from 6'1", 300-pound interior offensive lineman from Hawaii. He was committed to Cal since June 8th. Oregon able to flip one of their West Coast guys to the team as well. So I think you look at this, they have been on an absolute tirade. They've been getting the West Coast. They've been getting the East Coast. They've been hitting the SEC. They've been flipping tons and tons of players here, getting a lot of really great recruits. And what has that netted them? How has this benefited the Ducks? You look at the average overall recruit ratings as far as this 2026 class goes, and that leads me to my next chart. Oregon at the very top now. This latest string of top tier recruits, highlighted by the 5-star Iheanacho, really has boosted them to the top. They finally passed LSU, and you see here 93.76 average overall recruit grade for the Ducks, which is absolutely insane to have a 93 average for your players. Really, really great stuff for the Ducks. You see LSU's got 93.6, Alabama 93.06. Ohio State 92.27, and Texas A&M 92.23. When you're talking average grades of top programs, a point matters. So they're a little bit above LSU. They're a point better than Alabama. They're almost 2 points better than Ohio State and Texas A&M, doing some really good stuff in the recruiting game, getting some really, really quality recruits as well. And why does this matter? How does this affect the Ducks going forward? I think if we see the trend from when Dan Lanning took over this team to now, you can kind of see what has happened as they've gotten better in the quality of recruits they have gotten, which brings me to our third chart here. We see in 2022, over here when Lanning started, they had a grade just under 91, so like a 90.8 average overall recruiting grade here for the Ducks. Some good stuff, but again, there's some better things they could do as well. They keep improving a little bit better in 2023. Then we see a big jump from 2023 to the 2024 class. What does that net them? That gives them strong, college football playoff push, a really strong team last year. Again, over 92 over average overall player grade for them. And then we see another really big jump, almost 2 points, 94 overall player grade for the Ducks here in 2025, and keeping a flat trend here in 2026, showing there's been a big jump. There's a jump from 2022 to 2023 going into 2024. Then there was a jump from 2024 to this 2025 class, and I think they're going to keep that same trend going into the 2026 class as well. There's been some massive quality of recruit upgrades for Oregon over the tenure of Dan Lanning here. He's gotten better and better at recruiting. And I think we're going to see this payoff come this season. We're already seeing some quality guys come in this 2025 class. Really great stuff. But I think we look to the future as well. The 2026 class already looking like off to a flying hot start. This is going to be a great class for Oregon. And again, adding high level, high quality recruits to the program, not just in abundance, but very high quality as well. I think this is going to be how Oregon breaks through and not only makes the college football playoff, but makes the championship and wins the whole dang thing. You have to start getting more quality of recruits, better depth, better pieces all around the ball. And Oregon has done that. Expect to see a big jump this year, but it's expected to keep going in the future as well. This is really impressive stuff here for the Ducks. Curious what your thoughts are on all this, Nick. But before we get to you, Oregon fans, in the comment section below, we're talking, Ducks recruiting. We're talking about great quality of recruits. We're talking, throughout the years, there's been some strong recruiting classes for Oregon. 2025, obviously a really great one. Let me know, is there one year of recruiting that really stands out for you? Was there one really strong recruiting class that you think really brought this program into prominence? Or one that you just had a lot of great players that really panned out? So let us know, what was your favorite recruiting class year for the Oregon Ducks? Something you probably don't think about. Take your time, maybe do a little research. Let us know what your favorite recruiting class for Oregon is here in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what are your thoughts on everything here for the Ducks?
So there's a lot to unpack there. I think first and foremost, let's recognize that currently, like you mentioned, they had the highest average level recruit in the 2026 class, but this isn't new territory for Oregon. They had the highest average recruiting score in 2025 as well. And let's remember, obviously, they had a great season until that disappointing Rose Bowl performance last year, but that was based on, outside of the transfers, just focusing on recruits. If we're being honest, a lot of the 2022, the 2023, and some of the 2024 kids, right, as they had gone through the program and developed. So this was what we saw last year for Oregon. This was so interesting. I think the chart you pulled up earlier is really insightful. What we saw last season in terms of the performance from the Ducks wasn't what their potential is today, right? There's a lagging effect, right? They had those good, solid recruiting classes. We're talking, 91 and 22 and 23, then up to 92 and 24. Good numbers, obviously, and that's the reason why they were a good team. One of the many reasons why they were a good team last season. But they're getting better in recruiting, right? So they're going to be a better team next year and even better the following years. And I think that's what the Ducks really need to hang their hat on going forward, and why a lot of programs in the Big Ten, if we're being totally honest, are in a really tough situation. Now, look, we're going to give credit where credit is due. USC has had a very, very good offseason, so has Ohio State, right? They've done a lot of really nice things. Those are good programs, a lot of great battles in this conference for many years to come. But when you look at the average quality of player, when the dust has settled at this point in July, we've seen the chaos of June, the first couple weeks of July. We can look and take a step back and say, okay, where do things currently stand? And Oregon's at the top of the list. And because Oregon also led the list last year, makes me think they're probably going to lead it this year, right? Maybe not. Maybe things will shake it a little differently. But I still think, regardless of what happens when it comes to individual recruits and who commits, decommits, who signs, ends it up, all that kind of stuff shakes out. Crazy things can always happen with these high school kids. Oregon's going to be one of the more talented, if not the most talented team in all of college football when it comes to average recruiting score. And if you can maintain that over a long period of time, you win championships. It's just a fact, right? That's what Alabama did, right? Obviously, Nick Saban was a great coach, right? They had a lot of great assistants. He did all that thing, historical program, all that kind of stuff. That's really important, undeniably so. But the biggest reason why Alabama was so good for so long was simply because they had better players than everybody else every single year. Right? In order to beat Alabama, you had to play a perfect game or get lucky. And you had to do that every single season. And you just can't do that all of the time. Alabama was just able to overwhelm people with their talent. Oregon is very quickly going to become that team when you look at the trend, when you look at the data. What was very interesting to me, and this is probably my fault, is I had kind of fallen into what I call the shiny new toy fallacy. I looked at what other programs were doing from a recruiting basis. I had looked at, for example, USC, and they've done a good job. Like I said, they've very solid work. Notre Dame's had a great offseason as well. But the reality is the consistent power in terms of acquiring young talent in college football right now is centered in Eugene with what Dan Lanning has done. And I don't think it's a coincidence, by the way, that Dan Lanning has the SEC connection, the SEC background, which of course can be traced back to Nick Saban, he is recreating out west the same program that dominated the state of Alabama and really dominated the college football world. We'll have to see how it continues, right? We'll have to see how the dust settles. A lot of question marks going forward. New quarterback this year, right? A lot of things could happen. But based on a pure talent basis, there's not a single program in college football that's at the Ducks level. And guess what? 99 times out of 100, that leads to championships.
Yeah, Nick, and I think that brings up the point here, and I love what Oregon's done. And we look at these past two classes. I think we need to focus 2025 and 2026 because those are going to most directly affect the now and then the future of this program as well. Oregon's done some good stuff, and I think they've really taken a different approach to how they come in and what they're going to do in the recruiting game, how they're going to fill out this team. And I think that's the key here. Instead of getting 30, 40, 50, 100 recruits in a class, they're focusing on quality. You look 2025 as far as where these players rank. If you look at the four teams ahead of Oregon in the overall rankings, and that's mainly because of quantity of recruits. You got Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, Texas. They got 26, 21, 27, and 25 commits to Oregon's 19, which Oregon obviously has the highest average quality of recruits there with a 94 grade, which is absolutely insane. So Oregon focusing on getting quality commits rather than getting, an abundance of commits. Because if we're being honest, out of that 25, I mean, there's probably like 10, 15 guys there that probably won't even play a snap of football for the Texas Longhorns. It's just how the cookie crumbles. There's a lot of commits that really don't ever come in and make a difference for the team. So Oregon saying, hey, instead of getting players that are going to transfer, leave, do whatever the case is there, let's go focus in getting a high quality of recruit in that aspect. But also they've been dominating as far as the transfer portal goes as well. In 2025, they are number 5 class in the transfer portal so far. So that's really great. I imagine they're going to repeat some transfer portal success in 2026. But when we look at the 2026 overall recruiting rankings, what they're able to bring to the table. Again, Oregon, slow to start. They really started getting hot. Like I said, there's 4 commits in the last couple weeks here in the month of July for the Ducks that really, keeps this team on moving, but they're not just getting any and everybody. You look at some of the top programs here, USC 31 commits, Georgia 29 commits, Texas A&M 24, Notre Dame 26. You look at Oregon, 14 commits so far, but what if they've gotten really, really good commits, quality commits, guys that are going to contribute and add to that program? So a great strategy by the Ducks. I think slowing down, focusing on quality, and then getting great guys to the transfer portal as well. A good strategy. And I think over these past 2 years, Dan Lanning has, started to, develop that, change that mentality as far as what he's done. And I think we're going to see some big, big results on Saturdays because of this new approach to recruiting for the Ducks.